All right, what's up, everybody? I'm back. Right now, I'm going to be doing a pretty loose response to Philosophical's Gamers video titled Gen Z is being called lazy for drinking water now. Okay, so all the points in this video are completely accurate, and actually, I'm kind of just making this video because I want to help his channel out and promote his channel. Check it out. And really, I think that he gets to like the essence of like the difference between like communism and capitalism, and why he makes good points on why things should be free, certain things. And I'm in basically agreement with him. But the thing is, I'm not like a capitalist. I'm an anarcho-capitalist. So basically, I don't agree or believe that the government has the right to force anybody to do anything, right? And as far as the privatization thing, I actually think that that's one of like libertarians' like weakest points, because basically, morally speaking, from like a moral standpoint, you have to have commons. You have to have some place where people can go and just get food and water and stuff like that for free. Now, do other people have to get it for them for free? No, but there should be some place where they can go. I mean, we all know the history of the Industrial Revolution. Everybody was living in like the shires and stuff or whatever outside the castle. And basically the really poor people, they basically just hunted rabbits and quail and stuff like that, and built their houses out of the wood that was available in the forest. I mean, it's basically Robin Hood, right? They lived in Sherwood Forest, and then all of a sudden the sheriff wanted to come and tax them, and they didn't have money because they didn't have money because they lived in the woods. So then, of course, in real life, the king basically decided to close the commons and force all of the people that lived in the commons into the cities, into the newly built factories that they were making at the start of the Industrial Revolution. And those people that used to live on the commons basically became the lower class and lower working class people. And they never had a chance to like go up because, of course, the ruling class was just basically a bunch of murderers, right? They were a bunch of people that went around murdering everybody on Earth and then putting crowns on their head and claiming that they were sent by God to murder everybody. Yeah, I mean, that is the history of Earth, basically. I mean, it's true. It's not false. And so, like, that's where I agree. That's one point that I agree with communists on, that there has to be some place for people to go to get food, water, space to live without paying for it. Otherwise, it is slavery. Otherwise, even anarcho-capitalism becomes slavery because by definition, you're forced to work for somebody else. And you can say, oh, well, you can leave your job. Oh, you can get another job. But what if you were born at a time period when everything's already privatized? And then you are forced to work for the people that already own everything. And so anarcho-capitalism can only be morally justified if there is also a commons area available for people to get food, water, and a place to live. Otherwise, you cannot just morally justify it. And that's why I know the history, and that's why I don't really talk about anarcho-capitalism or libertarianism, because it's not a popular belief in that. It's like they got to privatize everything. I get it, but that's not my thing, though. There's got to be balance, between what people want to do and the different modes of operation. And I think this goes into a deeper point about like speciation, because like really I've been thinking about this like a lot lately, where it's like the monopoly governments, what they do is like they disincentivize speciation, right? Because like if you think about it, right, it's like what place has more different types of species of animals? A tiny island like New Zealand or a huge landmass like Eurasia? right? And some people might think, oh, well, the huge landmass is going to have more species of animals, but that's not how it works, though. The New Zealand has like the most like animal species like anywhere on Earth. Like they almost have more animal species than everywhere on Earth combined, like just in New Zealand. And the reason why is because they're in a tiny confined space. And so therefore each individual animal takes a different resource, right? So that's why they're all different, even though they might be like a similar type of bird. They each, consume a different resource. They fly at a different height, because they're all stuck together. They had to figure out how to use different resources, and because of the monopoly force of government, right, combined with fiat currency, it forces like it disincentivizes speciation because the only resource is money. And that's why I always argue for, that communists should be communist. If that's your mind state and that's your mode of being, then be a communist. But if you force us to be communist, then you're doing the same thing. And if we force you to be capitalist, then we're doing the same thing. So the only way is to speciate, right? You guys go and be communist somewhere, and we'll be capitalist somewhere, right? Because they're two different modes of gathering resources. And the monopoly force of government and fiat currency forces us all to be one thing that can get money, right? So that's my thing, I know that's it's unorthodox anarcho-capitalism, and you just have to like let the poor die and all that other stuff. I get it. But that's what I'm saying. It's morally unjustifiable without a commons. It is. He's right. And but at the same time, you guys still have to prove that full communism works without forcing us to do it. Like, just be communist and prove that communism builds better cities, that communism builds better stuff. And then everyone will just come over to communism. No force required. But right now, the capitalists are convincing everyone. And let's not get into the corporate stuff, because it's like, yeah, they are kind of brainwashing everybody and manipulating everybody. And because there are no commons, people are forced to work. And so it's hard to determine like which part of it is capitalism and which part of it is this monopoly government system. But it's like, it's like, just got to build the systems, both systems, and see which one people want to choose, because that's the true like non-slavery, is allowing people to choose which system they want to live under. And we just have to figure out a way to create space for both systems to exist. Because otherwise it becomes, like a Darwinism thing where one species is going to try to take over where two species can't occupy the same niche. And that's what the problem with like the monopoly force of government is, because it doesn't allow for speciation like that. And like, it's good in a sense if you need to have like a united country like we did in the past, right? We did have to fight off, certain groups of people in order to maintain these things that exist now, in order for us to even get to the point where we can realize that we made a mistake. You see what I'm saying? And then, so like, we don't blame like the stuff that happened in the past. We just say, okay, that happened and now we're here, right? And certain things work from both systems and certain things don't work from both systems, right? And like, that's basically like what I want to talk about, is that obviously the commons are like a moral must in a world of privatization or capitalism. There has to be a way for people that don't want to like buy food and water and stuff to get access to that without having to work for someone else. simply because they were born before them or they're smarter than them or whatever else. But we're not going to get into my intellectual domination thing yet. I mean, we could. I could just go straight into the intellectual domination thing and how, basically the argument itself is a anti-gynocentric argument, but really it works for like all human like traits, right? It's like, because that's the thing that I don't like about MGTOW is that a lot of the biological determinist guys, they just like, well, that's it. It's just women are gonna like manipulate men and that's it. But humans are also murder centric, right? Like we must kill to eat. We must kill to live. Even if you're a vegetarian, you got to kill those plants. You got to kill them. So you can say, oh, murder is just human nature. And then we don't make any laws for it and we let everybody just run around. But we don't do that, though, right? We make laws and we make philosophies and justifications as to why you shouldn't do that. So we're at the point now where we just didn't make any laws to stop female nature and the like hazardous effects on men, right? So we're at a point in history now where men are like basically unprotected by any legal system from women, and most people go along with it because they feel like it's justified for some reason or other. And we can say the same thing about intellectual domination, right? It's like, do you want to live in a society where like Mike Tyson and Joe Rogan are just allowed to run around and beat everybody up just because they can, because they're stronger than? No, we made laws against that. If you can't use your muscles for the good of society, then just don't use them, right? And it's the brain is a muscle, and it's the same thing. Like they're more invisible forces, like the way that females like use men to gather resources. It's like not a direct thing where you can just, oh, they're doing it. Like how you can just directly say, oh, the man's putting his P in the V and he's causing her to have a baby, right? It's not as evident. It's the same thing with intellectual domination. It's not as evident, right? But it's like, if you can't use your big brain for the good of humanity, just don't use it. People don't want, the same way that people don't want big guys running around beating them up. They don't want smart people manipulating them and tricking them and psychologically tricking them into contracts and manipulating markets and all this other stuff. Like people just want to actually be free from all that stuff. And it's like the same thing. If you can't use your brain for good, you can't use your muscles to like help other people, then just don't use them. But yeah, that's basically the pitch there. It's just that, there's been so many laws stopping men from doing everything almost to the point where we're like paralyzed, can't do anything. And it's the same thing. We've got all these super genius people and people are, oh, the super geniuses, yeah. And then next thing you know, you wake up in like Prison Planet 1984 with AI Minority Report. Yeah. That's how it works. So I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling on now. I'm going to finish this video. Check out Philosophical Gamers channel. One second. What the hell? There you go. Give it a thumbs up. Alrighty. I'm going to get out of here. Have a good day and peace.